Welcome back to Nuzhat ma'am ke online classes. So today we are going to do chapter 2, History and Evolution of Computers, part 2, Generation of Computers. Part 1 is already on channel so you can go through it. So in this video lecture you will learn more about each of the 5 generation of computers. So do you remember your computer lecture of 4th standard? Teacher explaining generation of computer showing pictures of the first computers? You may remember, right? It's so crazy to think about how large the first computers were, the size of room, right? Meanwhile, you are watching this video lecture around all the time holding your handheld device in your hand or giving voice command instead of typing to get an output with 100 times more powerful than one of those room-sized computers. It just goes to show how far technology can progress. So, our journey of 5 generation of computers start in 1945 with vacuum tube. As you can see in this image, these are known as vacuum tubes, and goes to the present day and beyond with artificial intelligence, that is AI systems and devices. Now you may be wondering, like, why such 5 generations are evolved? What was the limitation of the previous generation of computer? What improvement was needed to make the computer smaller and smaller? At the same time, we need more powerful computer than big size computer with lower cost computer compared to the previous generation of computer. So here, I ensure you will get to know all of these answers to your questions in this video itself. So let's go ahead and enjoy learning together. So in this video lecture, we will get familiar with the term generation with respect to both hardware and software that has been evolved over time. So here first, I will cover generation of computers based on hardware. And in this video lecture only, I will cover generation of computers based on software too. So here in the topic of generation of computer based on hardware, you have to remember year of generation of computers, technology used in that respective generation, and characteristic of that particular generation of computers. So let's look to our very first topic, that is first generation of computers, and also you can screenshot this so this will be useful for your last minute revision. So here is our first generation of computers. So between 1945 to 1955, we had our first generation of computers. In first generation of computers started with ENIAC. That ENIAC stands for Electrical Numerical Integrator and Calculator. So ENIAC was very first electronic computer. Before ENIAC, mechanical machine like analytical engine were used that needed human intervention. That is human interference it needed to operate. A mechanical computer does not have an electrical power supply, so it relies on user to provide power through the constant moving of a lever to perform a calculation. And ENIAC was the first electronic computer that runs on electricity and operate automatically without human intervention. Yes, ENIAC is regarded as one of the forefathers of the modern personal computers. As you can see in ENIAC, full form C in the N stands for calculator. It's not a computer. The size of ENIAC computers was very large, yes, usually occupying the whole room. It was built during the World War II, and it was then followed by the IBM UNIVAC 1, which is Universal Automatic Computer. Here it is computer which was built by Mockley and Eckert. So UNIVAC basically was the first commercial computer, and as of those other models like ENIAC were built for military purposes only. So here as you can see the image of the Mockley and Eckert who made it. So, in the first generation, we used vacuum tubes. So, because of vacuum tubes, the first generation was very large. Now, during the first half of the 20th century, vacuum tubes were predominantly used in electronic devices such as televisions, radios, X-ray machine, and computers. So, the first generation computers also used vacuum tubes. Now, because of vacuum tubes, the first generation were very large, as a single computer had to contain thousands of vacuum tubes and could fill an entire room. So it is very crazy to think about how large the first computers were, the size of an entire room. And vacuum is similar to those of a light bulb, so that required a lot of energy also. Now, they were slow in input and output. So the first generation of computer would take few days or even weeks to give an output. It used thousands of vacuum tubes, so it suffered with heat. That means an air conditioner was needed to keep the computer's operating system cool down. So again, it increased the cost of maintenance. Further, the vacuum tubes needed to be replaced often as they had short lifespan. And one more thing to remember here is machine or binary language consists of zeros and ones was used to program in the first generation of computer, which is a very simple machine level language. So now we have second generation of computers, which was during the year between 1955 to 1965, when the transistor replaced vacuum tubes. So here transistors were used in the second generation computer Transistor is a small component made up of semiconductor material, as you can see here in this image. Now, you may be saying that what is semiconductor? So, a CPU transistor placed on silicon chips are called semiconductors, and they are very smaller than its vacuum tube. So, allowing for miniaturization of computers, that means they are allowing you to have a mini version of computers. So the best advantage of transistor was the computer size was reduced. Yes, and then the next advantage was that transistors are cheaper than vacuum tubes, and using transistor instead of vacuum tube minimized the problem of generating a lot of heat also. Now using transistor makes the computer faster, as now it could perform operations comparatively faster than the first generation of computers. The storage capacity was also improved with it. Instead of working with machine level language, now the machine could work with higher level languages such as Algol and Fortran. Now Fortran here is a general purpose computer programming language that was first introduced by IBM. Now we will see examples of second generation of computers. So here IBM 1620. This is the best example of second generation of computers. Let's move toward our third generation of computers, which was between the years 1965 to 1980. As you can see in image, the component which is shown in the image is known as integrated circuits, that is IC. They were used in the third generation of computers. So this IC is also known as small silicon chip or computer chip or microchip that replace multiple transistors into a single chip. Instead of using individual transistors, the computer made in third generation used integrated circuits technology. So essentially, an integrated circuit is a composite of various electronic components. So as you can see, there is diode, then transistors, and then resistors, capacitors. They are connected in a way that produce a specific effect. As we can say that replacing the technology of second generation computer, that is multiple transistors into single chip, made the computer smaller in size, faster and efficient, and more flexible in the terms of input and output. Third generation of computers gained the name of mini computers that made it possible to attach peripheral devices like keyboards, mouse, monitor, etc. to this, and they satisfy the need of small business also. Because compared to first generation of computers that relied on punch card which would occupy entire room and buildings, whereas mini computers were quite small to do processing and data. This computer satisfy the need of small business that needed more power and memory also. So let's see the examples of third generation of computers. Example of mini computer in third generation of computers are IBM 360 series computer and PDP series, that is PDP-8, PDP personal data processor, and PDP-11. So now we will see fourth generation of computers, which was during the years between 1980 to 1989. So here it happened with the invention of microprocessor, as you can see in image. So this fourth generation of computers were using VLSI, that stands for very large scale integration, to have thousands of resistors on a single microchip. Now here there was an invention of microprocessors, commonly known as CPU, were invented. So the microprocessor consists of thousands of integrated circuits that were built onto a single silicon chip. Yes, just imagine, this technology got insane. It came from what in the first generation filled an entire room could now fit in the palm of the hand. To see how progress we did in the field of technology. So yes, so this fourth generation uses VLCI, so that made the computer small and portable. They were cheap and would work at high speed with a lot more accuracy and reliability. And additionally, the personal computer, that is PC, revolution also developed because of the features of fourth generation computers here. And as these small computers became more powerful, they could be linked together to form networks also, which eventually led to the development of internet. So yes, we can say that internet was also developed in fourth generation of computers. So let's see the examples of fourth generation of computers. IBM PC, Apple II, supercomputer, Cray series. So supercomputers are the best in terms of processing capacity and cost. They are highly expensive, but they are best in processing capacity. These computers can process billions of instructions per second. So they are used for applications when intensive numerical computations such as stock analysis, weather forecasting, and other similar complex applications. So let's move towards our fifth generation of computers, that is from 1989 till late. Yes, till today we are using the fifth generation of computers. Unbelievable, right? But yes, till today we are using it. So fifth generation computers are smarter in the terms of processing speed, user friendliness, and connectivity to network. They are portable and sophisticated also. Portable and sophisticated also means they are much smaller than compared to the first generation of computers. They are faster, cheaper, self-reliant, combined with quantum and nanotechnology. Quantum here means macro, nano means micro. So both technology was used to make this component. The future is the fifth generation of computers, which is based upon artificial intelligence and still in development stage. Powerful desktops, notebooks, variety of storage mechanisms such as optical disk and advanced software technology such as distributed operating system and artificial intelligence are key features of this generations of computers. Yes, and one more thing I want to add here is, so in fourth generation we use VLSI. Similarly, in fifth generation we used ULSI, that is ultra large scale integration. So now let's see the examples of fifth generation of computers. The first example is IBM notebook, then Pentium PCs, and then Param 10,000. Now let's see some questions. As we have done topics of generation of computers based on hardware, we will see some questions here. So here's our first question, that what is the first mechanical computer called? So here mechanical computer called means that is analytical engine. Then what is the first electronic computer called? So first electronic computer is ENIAC. Don't get confused between mechanical computer and electronic computer. Mechanical computer is for analytical engine and electronic computer is for ENIAC. Then we have, which are the first generation digital computer devices? So the first generation digital computer devices were ENIAC and UNIVAC. Who invented ENIAC and UNIVAC? So Eckert and Mauchly invented ENIAC and UNIVAC. Then which generation was the period of 1955 to 1965? So here second generation of computers will be the correct answer. The first generation was from 1945 to 1955 and second is from 1955 to 1965. Then we have, which generation used higher level language like Algol and Fortran? So second generation of computers. Then we have, which generation computer became popular as mini computer? So the third generations of computers became popular as mini computers. Then which generation are example of IBM PC and Apple II? So obviously fourth generation of computers are the best example of IBM PC and Apple II. Then which generation based on VLSI microprocessor? VLSI microprocessor stands for very large scale integration and that was in fourth generation of computers. So yes, now we have interesting match the following. We will see the components. Here as you see, name is given. First generation computers used vacuum tubes. Second generation of computers used transistors. Third generation of computers used integrated circuits, that is IC, and fourth generation used microprocessor. Let's see. Yes, we have gotten all our 4 questions right. So now let's move towards our second part of this video, that is generation of computers based on software. Again, you can screenshot this for your last minute revision. Let's move forward. So generation of computers based on software. Here I want to tell you that programming language generation are a way to classify computer programming languages according to their overall distances from the actual machine code that is generated and in some ways their ease of use by a programmer. First, we will see first generation of computer. So this first generation of computer relies on machine level language or machine language. So the very first generation of computer programming language is straight machine level language or machine language, or you can say binary language also. A language which has two-state language having symbols 0 and 1. So this is also called binary language. 0 and 1 are used in such a sequence that only machine can understand. It is very tough for a human to understand it, and computer being mainly an electronic device understands this language only. Now we will see second generation of language. So to avoid difficulties working with machine level language, assembly language was introduced and considered as second generation computer language. Here, programmers were facing programming while implementing program in binary or machine language. So as it can be very hard for one person to understand what another person is trying to do. So to avoid these difficulties, we made new languages, that is assembly language was introduced in second generation. Now, assembly languages uses mnemonic codes or symbols. So that is that human readable code and commands such as add, subtract or move. Such mnemonic codes were used instead of sequence of zeros and ones only. So at least a human can have a little bit of idea that what a computer wants to do. Again, this assembly language understood by programmer, not by computer. So assembler is needed to convert this assembly language to underlying binary language. And this assembler is costly even remembering code for specific CPU. Configuration or system architecture becomes very difficult for the user, so programmers soon moved to the higher level languages, that is third level language. So we will see third level language here. The third level languages as a subset of English language. From both of these languages, there is binary level language and assembly language. From both of these languages, third generation languages was comparatively much easier to understand as it had a subset of English language. Now, this third generation language are also known as higher level languages. To make machine automatically translate the content written in higher level language, special utility called translator, such as compiler and interpreter, is used. Now, what does translator does? The translator, written in machine understandable form, converts data and instructions provided into the higher level language into machine understandable form. So the examples of such higher level languages are C language, then COBOL and Java. All of these languages are known as programming languages. Now we will see our fourth generation of language. The fourth generation of language was more sophisticated programming environments, and the fourth generation language reduced programming effort by just specifying what to do instead of how to do. They just specified what to do instead of how to do. They just made your task very easy. And structured query language, that is SQL, is the example of the fourth generation programming language. Now we move towards our fifth generation language. So fifth generation languages are designed to make the computer solve a given problem without the programmer. In fifth generation language, programmer was not needed. So some examples of applications that require such support is fault finding, voice recognition, and intrusion detection. So such tasks are carried out in transparent fashion from users in order to avoid complexity and to facilitate user-friendly interactions with the systems. Fifth generation programming languages use artificial intelligence techniques to meet their goal. Now the artificial intelligence AI techniques can handle imprecision. Imprecision, that means inaccuracy, and supports human-like self-learning and problem solving. So these characteristics help putting the AI-based application a step ahead with added intelligence in comparison with the application developed in the other programming languages or tools. So that's all for fifth generation of languages. And here we add our both topics, that is generations based on hardware and computer generations based on softwares. So here we are. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more. And if you have any queries, let us know. I hope you like this video. Thank you.